Buongiorno, buongiorno, buon dia, boa tarde, boa noite, buongiorno, buonasera, dzień dobry, dobry wieczór, jak jela, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. Not Jay Slater case, not John George case, not three Brighton Sisters case, although in the three Brighton Sisters case, there's an article out there today in the Sun that says something about the police being baffled still about this case. I can't read it because it's behind a paywall. So I'm just saying, if anyone does have access to the Sun and does have access to that Three Brighton Sisters article without having to pay to read it, maybe you can let me know what it says or send me a link or something. Um, this is about football. Football, football, football. I'm still on about what I think is going to become one of the most remarkable, iconic games of international football for a long time. This is that semi-final, Argentina, England. There's so much to say about it. Could almost set up a whole channel on this one topic. I wanted to comment on some of the things that Jan said because by and large, I think we agree, but we've come at it from two very, very different angles. We don't totally agree. But on some things we do agree. And I wanted to comment on what I think are some really important aspects about each individual footballer's desire to win or their kind of shoulder shrugging about losing. I think it's a really important topic. And I want to talk about the hand of God, goal. I might have a take on that you disagree with, but I'll walk you through what I think about that. And a whole host of other subjects. So let's get cracking with what Jan said. What Jan did, she went through a whole selection of England players, mostly from a few years ago. But the point of it was to show how varied and how multicultural, if you like, the background is or was of some of England's finest players. And the point she made was that there are very, very few, when you look at the father and the mother of the England player, very few are sons of two English parents. Quite a lot of Irish thrown in there. I think Harry Kane is half Irish, half English. Declan Rice, I think Declan Rice, through parents, is both Irish. But there was a comment Jan made that really stood out to me. When it came to John Stones, Jan said, "Oh, look, we've got a true Brit here." And the implication of that, and I'm not making a value judgment on this at all, I'm just saying this is what it sounds like, for better or for worse, is that John Stones, we've got a true Brit here. It sounds like Jan is saying these others of very varied and mixed parentage aren't true Brits. My argument is if you have a team that doesn't identify as being, well, we can't say Britain because for football we have the individual home nations. If they can't identify as being truly English, then to me it explains how their commitment to playing for those three lions would be less. I'm not saying it's, it's not a big factor. It might be a big factor. It's not necessarily a big factor. But compared to a team like Argentina, that are what I call an ethno-nationalist team, they're all kind of, weeping at the sound of their national anthem and belting it out and going 100% for victory. It could be the difference. It could be the difference. I want to bring it home. I want to kind of relate it to the Jay Slater case in a humorous way if I can, because the motive to win something may well be different generation to generation. So if we had an England team that comprised of Jay Slater, of Brad Hargreaves, of Ayub Abdul Qasim, of Stephen Fortes Rocas, how effectively would those players perform for England? I would suggest not very well. Jay had a history of playing football. He was a footballer. And judging by Warren and Debbie's persona, I would say that 100% English, I would think. I think Jay's commitment would be 100%, or as close to 100% as one can be. Brad, I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm not talking about Brad's parentage, probably 100% English, maybe some Irish in him. But I just get the feeling Brad's one of those, well, what's in it for me? Yeah, after the game, what do I get? If there's a bag of Ket up as a prize, maybe Brad's got an incentive there. But some people don't find much an incentive to win for your country or for your people. So Brad, I'd have a question mark over. What's the incentive for Brad? Something that's useful to him? Maybe he'll play hard. Ayub. This is where we get into, I think, very, very muddy waters. Ayub's on record saying, I'm African. I'm not English. I live in London, but I'm African, Somali. Can't imagine he would be, all blood and guts and eyeballs out to play for England. Hockey, same thing. He said, I'm African. On Alive, he said, I'm African. My family's from Angola, Portuguese speaking African descent. When his mum appeared on Alive that time, and Rocky was kind of funny. Rocky was desperate to get her off. He was going fluent Portuguese, sai, mai, sai daqui, get out of here. When he was, talking to his mum, he's Portuguese, African Portuguese. So of the three, let's say of the four, let's say we have Brad, we have Jay, we have Ayu, we have Rocky in an England select team. Jay's the only one I can see playing hard for England. It's just my take. And then Jan said when it came to Dean Sturridge, you can't expect Sturridge to have the same pride as James Maddison. I think James Maddison is another one that was through parents 100% English. And I agree with her. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying you can't expect someone like Dean Sturridge, who can't remember now, he might have had both parents Jamaican. You can't expect Dean Sturridge to have the same pride as James Maddison playing for England. And I would go further than that. I would say someone who doesn't have that much of a connection to England couldn't be expected to play with the same pride. If I take myself as an example, I mean, here I am wearing a French shirt. I've spent very, very little time in the UK for most of my adult life, flying visits here and there. Um, I wouldn't expect me to have the same emotional attachment representing my country as someone that has spent every minute and they are 100% rooted there in the UK. That's just reality. One comment, nothing to do with the Jay Slater, but one comment on a football channel where I was commenting, guy said, I don't think it's anything to do with commitment. That the commitment was there from the England players against Argentina. It's just they were exhausted, wrong tactics. Yeah, and I said, this is something we can't measure. This is why we debate it and we try to throw out ideas to get close to the answer. But there's no meter, there's no heartometer that measures your devotion to your side, your country when you're playing these games. We don't know what the commitment level. We can only see the result. And I think when the result is basically a capitulation, when you're 1-0 up, you've got to ask yourself, is commitment to the country you're playing for a factor or not? I'm happy to say it may not be a factor, but I'm also happy to say it may be a factor and you need to keep it in mind when you select your England players. Possibly. I'm going to have a look at the subs. I actually didn't know how many England subs were used. So by the end of the game, 5 subs are allowed. All 5 had been used. So Konza came on in the 72nd minute for Gordon. That was the one I think that caused all the problems. The others are kind of irrelevant, to be honest, because in the 72nd minute, with England still 1 up, um, taking off Gordon, unless Gordon was injured, I don't think so, and I think he had plenty of energy left. I think it was tactical. What I'm saying is to take off attacking midfielder, wide forward player for a defender. It did send a signal to Argentina. It's like, okay, we're going to sit on this 1-goal lead. That's it. That's like giving Argentina a trump card. It's like saying we're gambling. We're thinking we can defend this, so it's up to you. Can you score a goal? And Argentina are like, yeah, let's bring on our forwards, and yeah, we're up for it. Byrne and O'Reilly came on 82nd minute. Again, solidifying the idea that we're going all out for defence here. It's another way of telling Argentina our strategy is hope. And hope, as we all know, is not a strategy. Our strategy here is to kind of put a lot of defenders in our box. You can have your shots and crosses and headers, but we just hope you're going to miss every time or Pickford will save it. That is our strategy. So for me, Byrne and O'Reilly coming on was, just let's just confirm this. We're gonna let you pepper our goal with shots. This is the one I mean, to me, this is unthinkable. In the 95th minute, Tony and Rashford come on. And these are the two I would have brought on when Consa came on. Shortly after the goal, I'm not sure how I would have done it actually. I think I would have brought on one forward first. I wouldn't have put on two forwards, but one definitely. One definitely. Um, Rice looked like he was out of it. I would have, yeah, nothing wrong with taking Rice off actually. I really do think he had no more juice in him. I think the energy had been sapped out of Declan Rice. He's had a long year, long season, and I would have put Rashford on there. A fast, fresh pair of legs to take it to Argentina. And Tony I would have brought on later. But my point here is why bring them on in the 95th minute? I mean, that's our last roll of the dice that is desperate as hell. Why bring them on the 95th minute? Why not the 90th? Why not the 85th? Why not the 80th? Why not the 75th? What is the thinking that says, here are two key players that can turn this game around, and now I put them on when there's only a few seconds left? It's a really bad decision for Tuchel to try to defend. We'll get on to what Tuchel has said a bit later on. Um, Tuchel said in an interview, I think this might have been today, he had no regrets. I don't understand how anyone can say you've got no regrets. I mean, in life, everyone has regrets. If you don't have any regrets in life, you're not human. Or you're some arrogant narcissist that thinks everything you do 100% must be right. That can't be true. If you're one up, as England were, and you lose 2-1 to two late goals, as a coach, you've got to have regrets. To say no regrets is just plain stupid. Maybe the guy doesn't understand what the word means in English, but surely he does. So I think Tuchel's lying there. Yeah, he does have regrets. Surely he regrets the whole packing the box with defenders, putting on defenders. He must surely regret it. And then this one, we played one of our best matches. Now, if maybe I got this wrong, maybe this is Tuchel being sarcastic, but Germans aren't known for their humor and their sarcasm. We played one of our best matches. When you have 12% of the possession from the England goal on, last 30 minutes or so, 12% possession, that cannot be one of your best matches. It's not possible. It's just not possible. So whether Tuchel got blind drunk and is now saying this because he's still got a hangover, I don't know. But those of you talking about firing Tuchel, I would say any manager that says no regrets after that result and that performance and says we played one of our best matches, I think on those words alone, you've got to think there must be someone else that should be in charge here. I would think. And talking about Tuchel's quote about it's just not in the English DNA to hold on to a one goal lead or to keep attacking one goal up. My mind went to the two very skillful players that I rank very highly, Foden and Palmer, that were left at home. It would have been so nice to have them on the bench because I think they might not, but might have rescued the situation for us. When you need ball possession, when you need some kind of creativity, when you need grace under pressure, Foden and Palmer, two names that stand out beyond anyone, maybe apart from Bellingham and Kane on that field. But yeah, again, they weren't there. The whole squad selection has to be re-examined in the fullness of time here. I want to talk about Argentina's dirty play because I do have a different take on this from a lot of you. And Sally Titanic pointed out something. She said maybe it is in the English and the British attitude and mentality that we do with our sense of our, again, I'm not sure if I am part of that, but British sense of fair play means that we do get outraged when the opposition rip it up and commit fouls and get away with it. And I felt this in what Lisa Payne was saying that, I think she was saying, I want no interest now in the final. I don't want to see Argentina play. It is just disgusting. And I don't feel exactly that way. Yes, I can see that Argentina are cheaters, rule breakers, um, punchy. I can see all that. That's right there. We can all see it. But I guess I have less outrage about it because I think that is football today in many parts of the world, and it has been for a while. If you go back and look at the old English First Division games, if you remember the likes of Norman Hunter, Billy Bremner, um, I mean, Charity Shield, Kevin Keegan just punches Bremner in the face. Okay, they both got sent off. Yeah, it was back in the day. English First Division was a lot worse in many games than Argentina against England. Um, and that's not making an excuse. That's just saying what the reality is. And I think Sally Titanic is right. I think there's a sense of fair play that still exists in the English and the British mentality that is outraged and gets really put out by this. Maybe that's why Argentina said, we've got a bunch of English pussies here. They don't like being pushed around. They'll probably react. Let's get stuck into them the first 30 minutes. And fingers crossed, the ref doesn't really care that much. But it is the ref that's to blame in that situation. It's a bit like a teacher in the classroom. Teacher in the classroom sets the classroom rules. Teacher in the classroom has classroom management skills, fingers crossed, that can maintain order. If the teacher in the classroom doesn't have that, the kids get away with whatever they can get away with. It's the teacher that controls everything. It's the referee that does control everything. I would agree with the Lisa Paynes of this world and the Jans of this world that say that should not have been tolerated. I would have been fine with the first not crunching tackle, but the first horrendous foul committed by anyone, but let's say it's an Argentinian. I'd been fine if the referee had brought out a red card straight away. That's a straight red. Sets the tone of the game. Argentina down to 10 men after 10 minutes or something. Now, we all know referees don't like to do that. FIFA don't like to do it. It's considered like, the game has now been settled by, this red card. They don't like to do it, but I wouldn't be against it if that happened. And I did point out that according to the rules, Declan Rice doing all that kind of stuff, talking like that, that's a red card these days when you cover up your mouth so no one can see or figure out what you're saying. There were incidents there where England could have been punished too, and England weren't punished. But I don't this notion of fair play in that. I'm like, yeah, in some countries it's important. In other countries it isn't. If you're outraged by it, then you've got to be outraged by the referee that can't control it as well. And this is when I want to turn to the hand of God goal, because I guess again I have a slightly atypical view on that than most all British English people. When I see that goal, yeah, I'm like, bloody hell, that's the biggest cheat in football history there, punching the ball in. But there's also a part of me that says, if you're going to let that happen to you, you've also got, as an English goalkeeper, an English defender, English man, you've got to think, how did we get caught out by that? I know this is bizarre thinking, but even when I see that goal repeated many, many times, as the ball goes in the air and Maradona is moving forward to go up and challenge Peter Shilton for the ball, I'm thinking, how can Maradona, even with a hand, ever get the better of Peter Shilton? It shouldn't happen. Maradona's, what, 5 foot nothing? Peter Shilton's 6 foot something? Maybe he's just short of 6 foot. Um, Shilton's the goalkeeper. He is allowed to use both hands openly. Maradona is an outfield player. He can't use his hands, but still, the midget jumps the goalie and surreptitiously, with one hand, manages to get to the ball first and scores. Now, yeah, these days with VAR, that goal would have been disallowed. A yellow card, maybe even a red these days for what Maradona did there, probably yellow. My point is, I think Shilton is also to blame for for that happening. It's both are true. Both statements are true. That goal should have been stopped, whether it's cheating or not. It should have been stopped. Whether the goalie should have got that ball anyway. But it's also true that's an outrageous cheat, and most people on this planet would say that was a terrible thing. And I would say it's a terrible thing, but I also say, yeah, but in life you have to deal with these things. You can't go cry about it for the rest of your life. You have to figure out, how would I deal with it better next time? Also, this is an important point. Those that are wringing their hands about the Argentinian roughhousing, let's call it the rough play, the roughhousing, the dark arts, for the first 30 minutes or so, are you 100% sure that that was a bad thing for England? Are you 100% sure it was a bad thing or a good thing for Argentina? What I'm saying is, when you do play that type of very physical, rule breaking, um, in your face play, it's a big gamble. I don't think it worked for Argentina. I mean, statement of the obvious, after all that rough play, it was England that went one up. So you could argue that it was to the detriment of the Argentinian game that they did all that. It didn't work. England went up. Let me put it this way. Did England go one goal up because of the rough play from Argentina? Were England so enraged by how they were being treated on the field that they played up one level, if you like, and got that first goal? Could you argue that it was the rough play of Argentina that inspired England to go ahead? England got the first goal because of Argentina's rough play, not despite Argentina's rough play. Or possibly in the middle. England went one up, but it was nothing to do with the rough play. All I'm saying is, it's very hard to say, well, Argentina benefited from all that rough play, didn't they? Well, clearly not. They went one goal down. It is a big gamble. If you're going to do the rough play, it might disrupt your game more than the other team. And tomorrow night, when Spain play Argentina, we've got to expect Argentina to do the same thing, but I think Spain are now prepared. And it might be that the same thing happens, and maybe Argentina go out there all pushy, shovey, kicky, and Spain go a goal up, because it's as disruptive or more disruptive to the Argentinian game than it is to the Spanish game. Did England go a goal up despite or because of Argentina's dirty tricks? Or was it not a factor in the end? All I know is, after the England goal, Argentina weren't particularly dirty. In the 15 minutes at the end, when Argentina were trying to get the equaliser, there was no dirty stuff from them at all that I saw. Of course not. They're trying to get a goal. So, yeah, I'm not sure that it benefited Argentina. And I'm not sure that it really was to the detriment of England's game that they went through that. I think we all expected it. It's the first half. The tone is going to be set. Um, Argentina have scored 9 goals in the last 15 minutes in this World Cup. 9 goals in the last 15 minutes. You can't dismiss that. Hey, I get it. You don't like Argentina. You don't like Messi. You don't like how FIFA and Argentina seem to be working together. I get all that. But at the end of the day, you still got 11 players on the field. And Argentina have gone through some very tight situations where they've had to dig very, very deep. And they've done it. They've produced 9 goals in the last 15 minutes. I would submit, you can't do that just by corruption and fixing things. You still have to score the damn goals. And they've done it. And that is why I actually do admire, when they are looking to move forward, pass, and score, I do admire the Argentinian game when they are focused on doing that. Argentina is a country of 46 million people. It is by far the smallest country to have won the World Cup in the last 60 years. If you look at the winners, where's my winners list here? Well, you know them. Brazil, much bigger country, much larger pool population to choose from, as has Germany, as has France, as has Spain. Not by a lot in Spain's case, but as has who else has won in the last? There aren't many, are there? I think there's eight. So France, Germany, Spain, Italy, bigger population than Argentina's. Anyway, you get my point. Of all the teams, all the nations that have won the World Cup in the last 60 years or so, Argentina's the smallest one. In every semi-final they've been in, they've won to get to the final. It's a fine record. No one else is out there saying anything positive about this Argentinian team. And I'm just one of those that says, hang on a second, yeah? Let's consider it from both angles. That's all I'm doing. I'm not disagreeing with anyone necessarily. I'm saying there's a point here. And if you look at how Argentina have done this over the last few decades, there is something admirable about how they've approached these tournaments. They've also won the Copa America the last two times. So if we go back for every tournament since the Russia World Cup, I mean, not many teams have actually beaten Argentina. They've had a phenomenal run. All right, I will leave it there. Is there more to say on Semi-Finalgate? Almost certainly. And having got this thing rolling with those of you that like football commentary, of course, I'll have lots to say after the final. I'll have nothing to say after today's game, England-France. I think it's meaningless. Don't care. But the final, yeah, I do care. I want to see how each team, Spain and Argentina, approach that final. Um, Spain are favourites. I'm not sure they could be big favourites, though. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Spain, Argentina on Sunday. I will report back after that. Hasta luego, adios, hasta la vista. See you next time.